This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning, Rabbi. We're ready. Almost up to, we're by Yom Rishon. Yom Rishon, the first day after Yom Kippur. Rishon the Cheshvan Avonos. Rishon the Cheshvan Avonos is usually Sukkah. But Chazal say that these 4 days we're so busy being involved in mitzvahs, in Sukkah, in Daled Minim, that we don't even have time to do an Avera. So part of the being busy in Sukkah and Daled Minim is learning about it, certainly. And we're going to learn a Mishnah in Masechta Sukkah. This is Mishnah, Parak Beis, Mishnah Zayin. Parak Beis, Mishnah Zayin, Daf Chav Ches in Masechta Sukkah. Mi Shahaya Roishai V'Rubai B'Sukkah. Here you have a guy, his head and most of his body are in the Sukkah, V'Shulchanoi B'Tei Chavayis, but his table is in the house. Okay, so you wouldn't think this should be a problem. The man himself is entirely in the Sukkah. The table's in the house. Well, as we all know, only people have to keep mitzvahs, not tables. Right? So the fact that the table is in the house, who cares? But
if he sits in the house,
he's not sitting in the house. He's in the Sukkah, and the table's in the house. So Beis Shammai says this is no good. And the Gemara provides the reason, because we're afraid Shema Yimshach Achar Shulchanoi. He may eventually get drawn after the table, and he'll end up in the house. Beis Hillel Machshirin. Beis Hillel says it's kosher. Beis Shammai says that even what he eats in the Sukkah is pasul. A gzeira Shema Yimashe. In other words, the rabbis say that even though technically speaking he's fulfilling the mitzvah to its fullest, nevertheless, we're afraid he may get drawn after the table, and Beis Hillel are machshir. Okay, so that is pretty simple. Now the Mishnah tells us a story. Amru lahem Beis Hillel Beis Shammai. So the house of Hillel said to the house of Shammai, Loi kacha yamaisa, didn't the story go like this? Shahalchu ziknei Beis Shammai, v'ziknei Beis Hillel, levakeres Rabbi Yochanan ben Hacharonis. The elders of Beis Shammai and the elders of Beis Hillel went to visit Rabbi Yochanan ben Hacharonis. They went to visit him. Even though the ziknei Beis Shammai, ziknei Beis Hillel, they did not agree on many things, nevertheless, they were still friends. And they together went to visit Rabbi Yochanan Hacharonis. Yeah. Umitzauhu. And they found him, Shayu Yoshev, he was sitting, Roishai V'Rubai B'Sukkah, with his head and the majority of his body in the Sukkah, B'Shulchanoi B'Toich Habayis, and his table in the house. So here they find that Rabbi Yochanan ben Acharonis was either sitting in the Sukkah in this manner, with his head and his body in the Sukkah, and the table in the house. And V'lo Yomru Lo Davar, and they didn't say a word to him. They didn't say a word to him.
They're afraid of him.
They didn't say a word to him.
Because they're the guest. Guests need to be...
Now, what do you mean they didn't say a word to him? But he's not fulfilling the mitzvah of Sukkah. So you say, what do you mean? It's like America. In America, you see somebody doing something wrong, well, mind your own business. Mind your own business. Live and let live. You know? No. Right? People say, so the guy next to me is talking. Look, I do my thing, and he does his thing. But guess what? When you get up to Shemayim, his thing will become your thing. His talking will then go to your account. So you better say something. Otherwise, you're in trouble. And that's the way it is in life in general. In Judaism, if you see somebody doing something wrong, it's your problem, not his problem. It's his problem also. But it becomes your problem. You're responsible for him. So the fact that they didn't say anything to him means that they held he's fulfilling the mitzvah of Sukkah. That's a proof to who? To who? Beis Hillel Beis Shammai, to Beis Hillel, that Roishai V'Rubai B'Sukkah V'Shulchanoi B'Tei Habayis is kosher. Right? Because the fact that Rabbi Yochanan Hacharonis was sitting there in this manner and nobody said anything to him, that means what? That means he's doing the right thing.
it's a story like a come to
Yeah. So you got to talk up.
The world didn't say nothing.
You got to talk up. They're responsible. So Beis Shammai said to them, Misham Raya, is there a proof from that story? You got the story wrong. Af Heim Amrulai, they said to him, Im Kain HaYisa Noyeg, if this is your practice, like Kiyamta Mitzvah Sukkah Miyamecha, you have never fulfilled the mitzvah of Sukkah in your life. So Shammai says, what do you got the detail, you got the fact. Don't get confused with the facts. And the facts are that they did say to him, if this is your practice, you are not ever yotzei the mitzvah of Sukkah. Okay. So Rabbi said we have a lot of siyata d'shmai over here, because that 10 days ago, we were mefarsim a great gadol b'Yisrael by the name of Rabbi Aveili Fastvaller. Rabbi Aveili Fastvaller he took over as the head of the Bezdin for the Vilna Gaon, after the demise of the Vilna Gaon. Now here you have a gadol b'Yisrael who took over for the Vilna Gaon. He was mamish from the Gedolei Hadar. Most people never heard of him. So he has a famous halachic ruling that if you forget HaMelech HaKadosh the first night of Rosh Hashanah, you don't have to go back. Remember that? Yeah, you don't have to go back. And once we were mefarsim this gadol b'Yisrael, so in Shamayim they say, oh, Rabbi Aveili Fastvaller. Last night, I don't know, random sefer, I found the second thing that Rabbi Aveili Fastvaller said, and lo and behold, it's about the Indian of Sukkah. Okay, so now we're going to call the shiur the return of Rabbi Aveili Fastvaller. Okay, and Rabbi Aveili Fastvaller, it's in the sefer Kehilas Yitzchak on Parshas Emor in a footnote. And there are a lot of questions on this Mishnah. And the first question we have to ask is, what kind of machlokes is this between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel? If you want to say they argue about halacha, there are different ways of viewing the situation, about how do we darshan the pasuk in Yevamis of Aleha, Litzrar. You want to say they argue Masechta Shabbos, how you view a situation, fine. But how do you have a machlokes Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel about what happened in a story? They're arguing about the Metzius, they're arguing about the reality. Here you have their machlokes Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. Beis Shammai says that if your head and your body is in the sukkah and your table's in the house, the sukkah is possible. Beis Hillel says it's kosher. And then they proceed to argue about the following scenario. That the Ziknei Beis Shammai and Ziknei Beis Hillel went to visit Reb Yochanan ben Acharonis. And the Beis Hillel says, and nobody said anything to him about the fact that it was Rosh V'Ruba, the Sukkah, V'Shulchan V'Tach HaBayis. And Beis Shammai says, no, I argue on you. They did say to him that he's doing the wrong thing. What kind of machlokes is that? They were both there, and Beis Hillel says nobody said anything to him, and Beis Shammai says they did say. That means either Beis Shammai or Beis Hillel are lying. Somebody's lying over here. How could they? You want to argue about how to approach a certain concept, how to look at a certain inyan, fine. But how do they argue about what happened in the sukkah of Rabbi Yochanan ben Acharonis? Either they did say something to him or they didn't. What kind of machlokes is this? You can't argue about whether they criticized him or they didn't criticize him. This is the kasha of Rabbi Aveili Fastvaller. Another question is, according to Beis Shammai, they didn't tell him, what are you doing? You're not in the sukkah right now. They said, if this was your practice, then you never fulfilled sukkah in your life. Address the issue. The issue is, right now, he's not eating in the sukkah. So say, you can't do this. You're not eating in the sukkah now. Why are they saying, if this was your custom, you never fulfilled the mitzvah of sukkah in your entire life? So this is a great mystery. A Mishnah, Masechta Sukkah, Parak Beis, Mishnah Zayin. And it's a good thing you came today, because otherwise it would remain a mystery for the rest of your life. So it's brought down in a footnote on the footnote. Now, in this footnote on the footnote, he does not bring this answer down in the name of Rabbi Aveili Fastvaller, but others, in other Sfarim, I believe the Sefer Be'er Avram and Masechta Brachos Daf Yud Aleph, they attribute it to Rabbi Aveili Fastvaller. And the question that we have to ask again is, who is Rabbi Yochanan ben Acharonis? The answer is we don't really know, but why are they visiting him? So you could say, well, we know, this is interesting, there's a mitzvah to visit your Rebbe on Yom Tov. Chayiv Adam lahakvil pnei Rabbi Berega. It's a chiyuv. It's a chiyuv to visit your Rebbe on Yom Tov, on the Shalosh Regalim. The Rambam brings it down the halacha. The Shulchan Aruch does not bring it down the halacha. Why not? There's a tshuva in the Noda B'Yehuda that there's a very big difference between the Rambam and Shulchan Aruch. What the Rambam says is not necessarily for now. The Rambam writes any halachas that will ever be relevant, whether now or when the Beis HaMikdash is standing. Rambam has Hilchos Beis HaBechira. Shulchan Aruch is the halachas that are relevant today when there's no Beis HaMikdash only. Shulchan Aruch does not give any halachas that are relevant for when the Beis HaMikdash is standing, only for now. And the Noda B'Yehuda has a whole pilpul that Bisman has said that there's no Beis HaMikdash. The same way, there are certain halachas of how many times a day you're allowed to stand up for a Rebbe. Some say machlokes mechaber Rama. Maybe you can only stand up twice a day, because how could you stand up more than Kriya Shema? Kriya Shema, you only show honor to Hashem twice a day. So too says the Noda B'Yehuda that Bisman Hazeh, when you're only going to greet Hashem, you're not going to greet Hashem. There's no mitzvah aliyah l'regel. You can't fulfill the mitzvah of going to greet Hashem. There's no mitzvah. So you can't. So then the mitzvah of greeting your Rebbe does not apply on the Yom Tif, because how could it be that you have a mitzvah to greet your Rebbe and there's no mitzvah to greet Hashem? The honor of your Rebbe can't be greater than Shamayim, and therefore the Noda B'Yehuda says B'zman Hazeh there's no chiyuv of being makil pnei Rabbi b'regel, and that's why the Rambam does say it and the Shulchan Aruch does not. And you would presume then that the Ziknei Beis Shammai and Ziknei Beis Hillel, they're going to greet Rabbi Yochanan ben Acharonis. Maybe he's their Rebbe. But when he's their Rebbe, there's Ziknei Beis Shammai and Ziknei Beis Hillel. He's not their Rebbe. The Rebbe is Shammai and Hillel. Or you say maybe Shammai and Hillel are not alive anymore. Tosfos in Masechta Sukkah happens to give us a clue as to why they were visiting Rabbi Yochanan ben Acharonis. Look at number 3. Tosfos says, Ma'aseh Rabbi Yochanan Acharoni shechala. He was sick.
But when we say chole in the Gemara, that's somebody that is almost dead.
Okay, whatever. He's at least sick.
He doesn't feel well or he's sick? He's sitting in the sukkah.
A chayla is a chayla. He's sitting in the sukkah. But the question, he might not have to sit in the sukkah. So if he doesn't have to sit in the sukkah, it's not a problem that his table is out of the sukkah, because he's a chayla, he's patur from the mitzvah. So they don't tell him, hey, listen, pal, you're not sitting in the sukkah right now. The answer is because he doesn't have to. He doesn't have to go through the trouble of schlep. They wouldn't call him pal.
This is the Mishnah?
What?
This is the Mishnah?
There's a Mishnah, yeah.
Why wouldn't the Mishnah say that?
According to Tosfos, the Mishnah does say that. Tosfos is Girsa probably in the Mishnah. Yeah? Probably Tosfos.
He's doing a half job. He didn't bring the sukkah in, it's not in the sukkah.
The answer is he's sick, he's tired, he doesn't feel well, he doesn't want to schlep. He doesn't have koyach to schlep the table in the sukkah. So they don't have to tell him, hey, what are you doing? You're not sitting in the sukkah. He doesn't have to be sitting in the sukkah. So regarding what he was doing then and there, nobody said a word. There's nothing to say. He's patur. But they did say to him,
But Bet Shammai said that it says something. Still, it's proof that Bet Shammai didn't say anything.
The answer, nobody said anything. Nobody said anything regarding what he did then. Everybody agrees that regarding what he did then, they didn't say anything.
But Bet Shammai said that it says something.
Okay, so let's see. Take a look in the.
Beis Shammai says something?
Beis Shammai says they said to him the following: if this was your custom, you have never fulfilled the mitzvah of sukkah in your life. Okay, look at number 2. These are footnotes on the Sefer Kilas Yitzchak. He says Amar HaMechaber. By the way, before then he brings about on the 10th line or the 8th line. He says B'shamati B'shem Hagoin Hagadol Tel Talpios Mereinu Harav Avraham Aveili. Avraham Aveili was Rabbi Avraham Aveili Fastvaller Zalmi Vilna. Okay, so now go to the bottom. Amar HaMechaber Isa B'toisus La'el Direi HaMaskal the Amar Lon Mani the Zelashane Ma'isai B'Rabbi Yochanan Acharoni Shechala V'holchu Zigni Meisham Zigni Esil Levakre Matzusha Yoshev Rosh Ruba Sig Shechan B'Tei Chabayis V'onas Haya V'ein Raya Mizeh.
But when we say HaMechaber, we refer only to Yosef Karo.
Yeah. So he was an onus, so it's not a raya. The fact that he was doing this is not a proof. V'avheim amrulai, and they even said to him, Im keno yisanoy Glatstein af im af yoschal bari yisanoy kain. If you would do this even when you were healthy, like kiyamta mitzvah sukkah miyamecha. Ubezeh nicha mad amrulai im kain or yisanoy gduchar ma mesafkel ubezeh. They saw him doing this. They should have said, in other words, the point is, why did they say, if this is what you did? What do you mean if this is what you did? This is what he is doing. He is doing this. Why are they saying it as if they're not sure what he would do? They see him right now, eating in the sukkah in this manner. Why would they should say, Misham Raya, Heimamrulai, Im Kain. They should say like this. Im Kain Atanoyek. What do you mean, Im Kain? What do you mean if? Well, if they see him doing it.
If it's not the first time.
The answer is they have no idea what he does. All they know is right now, as a chayla, this is what he does. Now, the truth is, it's a little bit, it doesn't answer the question completely.
Could be before.
Because the bottom line is, they did say something.
Only when he
Bottom line, we're going back to the same question. If you're sitting in the halacha advice,
Yeah.
you still
No, we're not talking about, again, right now we're addressing one thing. We want to know what happened on that fateful day. Did they say something to him, or did they not say something to him? Did they or did they not?
Looking for possible answers.
Well, we want to, it has to be based on the text of the Mishnah. And the text of the Mishnah says that Beis Hillel tried to bring a proof from this incident that you're allowed to do it.
Yes.
Because nobody said anything to him.
May I propose a possible answer?
Yes.
Let's say he was obese
Yeah.
and his abdomen prevented him from getting close to the table. So he sat in the house
Yeah.
and reached over to the food on the table to eat and participate in the sukkah.
Well, that's in a
The
very...
reason why they don't mention this is because they don't want to embarrass him by telling the whole world he's fat.
Well, the truth is that you're right. Because the Mishnah says, Mishahaya Roishai Verubai B'Sukkah. Most of him was in the sukkah. What part of him wasn't in the sukkah? We'll leave that to your own imagination, right? What part of him was not in the sukkah?
His hand that reached the table.
Okay. So, we're giving maybe a partial answer. I don't think it's a full answer because the bottom line is they said something to him. I guess you have to say that Beis Hillel is not... Beis Hillel just says, this is what the guy is doing, and nobody criticized him for doing that on that day. Nobody said anything about what he's doing that day. So the Ziknei Beis Shammai said, no, what are you talking about? We didn't say anything about that day, because that day he was a chayla. And the other days, we did tell him. We told him...
We don't bring the issue that he's a guest. If a guest goes to somebody's house and you see that he does something wrong, so you tell him right away that he did something wrong?
In America, people are... Yeah, if he's...
No, what is halakha? You're a host. You're coming to visit somebody.
If you see him doing an Avera, it's an... Well, put it this way.
But what Avera are we talking about?
Eating out of the sukkah is an
Maybe a
Avera.
minute ago he was in the sukkah.
No, you have to eat every morsel of food in the sukkah. It's an Avera.
He did a bracha.
The halacha is like this. Listen, we have an important halacha. An important halacha. You're in the middle of a meal. You wash. General, you're allowed to drink out of a sukkah, yeah?
Yeah.
But if once you wash, you have to not only eat in the sukkah, you have to drink water in the sukkah. Everything you drink as part of the meal has to be in the sukkah. And if you drink it out of the sukkah, it's an avera.
Yeah, but what's happening if it's
And if
raining?
you see somebody doing it, you have to tell
No,
them.
but somebody-
And if you don't, then la'achar me'besim, you can come up and they say, why didn't you eat in the sukkah? You said, I even drank my water in the sukkah.
So
what are you
is
talking
the
about?
hara?
Say, yeah, but one time you saw someone not eating in the sukkah and you didn't say
So
anything.
why people do that? They do the bracha in the sukkah and go to eat at home.
It's
It's
nothing.
raining.
Oh, it's raining. When it's raining, you don't have to eat in the sukkah.
So maybe it was raining. And you just get in.
No. So you can't provide your own circumstances. You can't provide your own circumstances. So you have Tosfos. Tosfos says he was a chayla, but to say
If it's
on
a
him,
chole, there's no question. It's not allowed. He doesn't have to.
but that's why that's why nobody criticized him for what he was doing at that point. The question is, what about something else? Okay.
Maybe they didn't criticize him, but they said they discussed the whole, like we're discussing the whole
They
thing.
said to him, if this is what you did, you never fulfilled the mitzvah of sukkah in your life.
They told him that.
What? Yeah. Discussion
And that's for Bet
closed.
Shammai.
What?
That's for Bet Shammai.
That's what?
That's opinion of Bet Shammai.
Yeah, but Beis Hillel tried to bring a proof on the fact that nobody said anything. So Beis Shammai says, no, we told him. Okay. Let's discuss another issue. What if you situate your sukkah in a place where it's very comfortable, you have enough room to eat, but you can't sleep there? For whatever reason, it's in a place, it doesn't allow you to sleep there. Either it's dangerous, so you're not going to fall asleep, or it's noisy. Let's say it's in a noisy place, and you can't sleep there.
Some bees.
Or
Well, you're in the White House. It's dangerous to sleep in the White House.
it's dangerous. Let's say
It happened lately, but it's not.
it's.
Could you be thought that the bees?
No, let's say it's in a place you can't sleep. There's an air conditioner. It's rattling. You can't sleep. So fine. So, but I'll say I'll eat there. So Rama says if you can't fulfill and you can't be mekayim all aspects of the mitzvah of sukkah, then you're not even yotzei achila b'sukkah. A sukkah has to be able to provide all living uses. If you say, well, I could eat here, but I can't sleep here, then not only you're not yotzei achila, not only you're not yotzei sleeping, you're not yotzei achila either.
You need a bed in your sukkah?
Do you need?
You don't have a bed in the sukkah?
You have to be able to bring a bed in. You have to be able to.
Well, in
Yeah.
Israel, a lot of people do that.
It depends on the weather. It just happened with the remove umbrella this time of the year. Especially now.
What?
It's pretty cold. I saw one time that they were about to
But you can't eat there either.
That's the first two
They get like a house.
Yeah.
Whole thing?
No, because it's
No, you could bring it. You can't bring it now. You could bring it before Yom Tov. No, so that's just circumstantial. That doesn't, you happen not to. You happen not to.
I mean, it has to be that you can bring a bed. Doesn't mean you have to bring a bed.
We're not talking now about whether you're required to sleep in the sukkah. The halacha is you have to sleep in a sukkah. Are there heterim? The Rama says different heterim. Should you rely on them? Ask your local Orthodox rabbi whether you're entitled to rely on the leniency of the Rama. I'm not talking about that now. I'm not talking about whether you should or should not sleep in the sukkah. The halacha is you should. There's certain leniencies. Whether you should rely on it, we're not addressing that now. We're addressing something else. We're addressing in a sukkah that you're not able to sleep. Are you yotzei any mitzvah in the sukkah? And the Rama says no. If you're not able to sleep in the sukkah, either because they're ganovim, you're afraid of ganovim, or there's an air conditioner that's making a racket and you can't sleep. No, that's not to do with the sukkah. That's external. That's external. That's the weather. We're talking about you're putting the sukkah in a place where you're not able to sleep because of something. Then you're not only, let's say you have a sukkah near a railroad track, and every 3.5 minutes, so you say, fine, I won't sleep there, but I'll eat there. No, you won't eat there. It's like eating out of the sukkah, because this is not a sukkah that's able to meet your living needs. That's the psak of the Rama. Look at number 4. Haga. Look at number 4. If you make a sukkah in a place where you can't eat, let's say you have bugs that only disturb your eating and not your sleeping. As soon as you finish a meal, you say, I'll sleep here and I won't eat there. So not only are you not making the mitzvah achila, you're not even making the mitzvah of sleeping. Because once one of the uses of sukkah is out, the whole sukkah is done and finished with. Oy b'shtia, oy b'shina. If you make in a place that you are pained to eat, to drink, to sleep, oy she'i efshar lo lasos echad mehem b'sukkah. You can't do one of these things in the sukkah. Machmas de misyare milistin, because you're afraid of robbers. Oy ganovim, or bandits or robbers. Kashu b'sukkah. Eino yotzei b'yotzei sukkah klal. You're not yotzei at all in that sukkah. If you say, I don't sleep in my sukkah because I'm afraid someone's going to kidnap me, so then you can't eat in the sukkah either. I'm not saying whether you should or shouldn't. I'm just saying, if that's why...
How about kiddies?
What?
How about kiddies?
What do you mean kiddies? Nothing. You're not yotzei in the sukkah at all. Even things you're not pained on. So why not? Because the answer is the sukkah has to be like your house. Sukkah has to be like your house. This sukkah is not like your house. If you can't either eat, or drink, or sleep, then the sukkah does not work for anything. For anything. Why? Delay havya ke'ein dira sheyuchal aseh sham kol tzrachim. It is not like your house. A house is a place you can do everything. So if you, for whatever reason, cannot sleep in this sukkah, you made it in a way, there's an air conditioner there, so no problem. It's not a sukkah anymore. And if you eat there, it's like eating out of a sukkah. And this Rama might be the explanation for a very interesting Mishnah Berurah. The Mishnah Berurah seems to say that when you sleep in the sukkah, you should make sure that you don't take out your table. Mishnah Berurah says when you sleep in the sukkah, you should make sure the table is inside. Because if the table's not inside, very nice, you're sleeping in it, but you're not able to eat in it.
Sometimes you can't have two things at one time.
Look at the Mishnah Berurah.
With a table and a bed.
Look at the Mishnah Berurah. The Mishnah Berurah says, now the Mishnah Berurah told me a case where the sukkah is not big enough to hold the person who's sleeping there. What if it's a very small sukkah and the guy has to go like that? So normally, maybe a person could say, look, I don't sleep like that. At home, I sleep ausgespreit. Right? I'm 6 feet tall, but ausgespreit, I'm 7'5". Right? I need a big bed. I need a king-size bed. Right? So the guy, no, Rama says that's not an excuse. That's how you sleep. Meshuggah, how you sleep like that. You could also sleep crouched up. That's not a problem. Right? My grandfather, even in America, during the Great Depression, the whole family slept. They had one bed for the family. But you think everyone had their own bed? Everybody packs in. There's enough room for everybody, right? Okay, no, but that much we don't go. You don't have to sleep in a chair, but in a bed. Don't say that you need to sleep in your Serta orthopedic, air bubbled mattress. You say, well, it doesn't fit in my sukkah. Oh, too bad.
Yeah, we know that from Rabbi Eliezer when he slept under the bed. They used to have a real bed over there.
Okay, that's what he did. The question is, are you mechuyev too? So the Mishnah Berurah says like this. Mishnah Berurah is going on the round. The Ramah says if you have to sleep crouched up, then you got to do that. So says the Mishnah Berurah, the best thing to do is sleep. If you don't fit, stick your hands out of the sukkah. All you need is roshei v'rubai. Okay, so
that's a question.
But to say, but if you have to crouch and squeeze up, nobody considers that mitzvah. But says the Mishnah Berurah, make sure sarich lizayar. You should be careful. Sheyiyah hashulchan gam kein b'tach sukkah. That when you're sleeping, the table's still in the sukkah. Di'lav hachi. Otherwise, we're worried you may get drawn after your table. Question, what's the Mishnah Berurah talking about? You're not eating now. Why do you have to have your table in the sukkah? You're sleeping.
But let's say you just get up and you want to do something.
So he's like Bet Shammai.
You might go in the house. Sir, your hand.
We happen to pass like Beis Shammai in this case.
Yeah.
That's right. We pass like Beis Shammai. But what's the Mishnah Berurah talking about? That you need to sleep with your table in the sukkah. Only when you're eating you need to have the table in the sukkah. When you're sleeping, why should you need your table in the sukkah when you're sleeping? The answer is, apparently, the Mishnah Berurah is passing like the Ramah, that if, let's say you have a sukkah, and you can't eat in it, you can't eat in it, but you could sleep in it. So not only you're not yotzei eating, you're not yotzei sleeping either. So the Mishnah Berurah is saying that this case, you're right, the guy could fit sleeping. But if the table is not in the sukkah, and you can't be yotzei eating in the sukkah, not only you're not yotzei eating, you're not yotzei sleeping either.
How many people can fit both? Table and mattress.
So therefore, the Mishnah...
Means that you can't have the bed and the table fit in the sukkah together, or you just happen to take the table out. If my sukkah is raw, you have to hold the table. I need the table somewhere else temporarily. So I put the table out, and after the race is sleeping, because I don't have a table in, I could put the table in. It's talking about a case where you couldn't put the table together.
Either the table.
Okay. So let's say like that. Let's say your sukkah is not big enough to have the table and the bed at the same time. Why are you not yotzei? I could sleep now.
No, can't have a table. You have to have it roy.
I can, when I wake up, I can put on the table.
You have to have it roy. The space has to be roy.
What's the minimum?
Okay, fine. So fine. So that means you see a very big chiddush from the Mishnah Berurah.
What's the minimum?
That it's not just that when I'm sleeping, I have to be able to eat in the sukkah also. It's when I'm sleeping, I have to be able to eat and sleep at the same time. That's a very big chiddush, right?
How do you do that? How do you do that? Sleeping.
Okay, fine, right. So Tzvi is saying it doesn't mean if let's say I have a tremendous sukkah and I took out the table, then I'm not yotzei. Because I just happen to take out the table. It has to be that the sukkah is able to hold and cater to my achila even when I'm sleeping.
What's the minimum shiur for a table? So some people get sleep under the table. Put a good blanket on the
You cannot
bottom.
sleep, you're not to say.
Huh?
You're not to say on the
Sleep on the table.
So he's saying, it seems like the Mishnah Berurah is saying that when you're sleeping in the sukkah, it has to be able to have the table there at the same time.
Okay, so what is the minimum shiur for a table?
But if your house is not like that, it doesn't go by your house. It goes by people's houses in general. Most people, in their house, they could eat and drink.
How large is the table going to be?
A regular table. We're not
A table like this?
yeah, a small table. Small table. Small table, like, the table on the stage. Breakfast in bed table. So one second. And it's reported, I'm sorry, Rav Moshe Sternbuch writes that the minhag of the Chafetz Chaim, that when he would go to sleep in his sukkah, he was makbid that the table remain. So that's even, where's Tzvi? That's even more. Not just that, it's not just that, well, my sukkah has to be big enough to have my table and bed, but it actually has to have the table and bed in it. Even when I'm sleeping, the story goes, it's reported, as they say, legend has it, that in the Chafetz Chaim Sukkah, when he went to sleep, he did not remove the table.
So, Rabbi, if a Chafetz Chaim slept in Poland, in the sukkah,
Yeah.
and he didn't first from Listim, why would he in America?
You see, it all depends.
The steam?
Listim, whatever.
Oh, Listim.
Yeah.
Enechanami. It's not brought down in any poskim, a heter because of Listim. There are different heterim. One heter is normally person sleeps imishtai. That's the normal way to do it. So if a person's sukkah does not afford him that opportunity, so that would not be like you do it at home. Okay. Other heterim are okay. There are other. Are they valid heterim? If someone is able to sleep in the sukkah, it's a beautiful thing. It's a mitzvah d'oraisa.
You need to sleep the whole night or just a little bit?
I'm
You
sure
can start.
If you want to stay up after, if you want to sleep for 10 minutes and then stay up the rest of the night, then you don't have to stay in the sukkah.
What if you're sleeping under the sukkah and it starts raining?
Then you could go inside.
At the table, so you're not affected by the rain, and you can fulfill the mitzvah of sleeping in the sukkah.
No. So if you're under the table, that might be a problem because you're not sitting under the schach. That's not called under the sukkah. You're under the table. You're not sleeping in the sukkah. You're sleeping under the table. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah.
I got a funny feeling the answer is no on this, but you have a table.
Yeah.
It's small, but it's the type that folds. If you just fold it up, keep it in a sukkah, but just fold it up, and you have, let's say, a
Right. Does the table have to be
open
set up? I don't think it has to be set up.
So
Again, we weren't
it
there.
has to be in the sukkah.
We weren't there when the Chafetz Chaim was sitting in the sukkah.
Right.
They didn't have Torah any time then, so we don't have on video what the Chafetz Chaim did in the sukkah. Well, legend has it that when in his sukkah, when he went to sleep, the table was there. What's the explanation for such a practice? The explanation is that a sukkah has to be able to cater to all of your needs at the same time. Okay? And that might be what the Mishnah Berurah is saying. However, bottom line is, the poskim say don't sweat it. You don't have to worry that the table has to be set up when you go to sleep. Because, maybe Matis was asking this before, nobody says that when you're eating, your bed has to be set up. Does anybody say that while you're eating, make sure your bed is set up in the sukkah, with the mint by your pillow and everything? No, you don't have to be ready to go to sleep while you're eating, right? You could unfold the bed, roll in the bed after. So if your bed doesn't have to be set up while you're eating, What's the logic that your table has to be set up while you're sleeping?
I sat on the table.
Rabbi,
And even though the Mishnah Berurah is mashma this way, because he does say that when you go to sleep, your table should be there,
Doesn't say how.
the Mishnah Berurah doesn't really say it that clearly, and Rav Moshe Sternbach at least says, don't worry about it. Your table doesn't have to be set up while you're sleeping. However, he does say that it could be that this Mishnah Masechta Sukkah is a proof that your table does have to be set up. Why? Because listen carefully. What did they tell Rabbi Yochanan ben Acharani? They said, if this is how you sit with your body in the sukkah and your table in the house, you were never mekayim the mitzvah of sukkah in your whole life. Why wasn't he mekayim sukkah in his life? At least he was mekayim sukkah when he was sleeping. Why did they say to him, hey man, hey pal, if you do this and keep your table in the house, you were never mekayim sukkah in your whole life. He was mekayim sukkah in his life. Whenever he slept in the sukkah, he was mekayim sukkah. Oh, you know what they meant to say? If you keep your table in the house, not only do you not get achila b'sukkah, you don't even get sleeping in the sukkah because your table's in the house. Get it? Says in Moshe Sternbach, it seems like this Mishnah is a proof to the custom of the Chavetz Chaim that if your table's in the house, not only you're not getting eating, you're not getting sleeping either.
See, in Europe, they used to have people,
Yeah.
they had a yearly sukkah. A whole year you use for something else. It comes to sukkah, you open up the schlag, and you put schach, and that's because for these days of sukkah, you couldn't even sleep. It was comfortable. I know my grandfather had it. He had his own house, and on the porch, it was like a year, and the schlag was down. And once sukkah has come, and it's not raining, you pull it up big rope, and this was a comfortable sukkah. You couldn't even sleep. Because the people came in, I guess, because it was his house. It had like it was a whole year. A whole year you could use it because a yearly sukkah. You could use the whole year for other things. Only sukkah, you open up the schlag, you put schach,
Wow.
that's all.
In America,
Not everybody can have this.
in America, sleeping is not that popular. When I was in Eretz Yisrael in yeshiva,
everybody's sleeping on it.
yeah, everyone sleeps on it. The yeshiva is built in a way where it's a big square, and the inside of the yeshiva is completely carved out. It's outside. The yeshiva is a square with an inner square that's under the heavens. It's outside, and when Sukkot comes, they cover the yeshiva in schach, and the whole yeshiva moves into the central courtyard, and everyone sleeps in the sukkah. When I went to Bnei Brak, they have, oh, you can't be with your wife? You make a separate sukkah. You make a sukkah for you and your wife, and a separate sukkah for everybody else. And when I went to Bnei Brak, they have the sukkah on the street, and everybody sleeps. It's not, you're not comfortable? It was over 100 degrees there. It was over 100 degrees. Everyone sleeps in the sukkah. When I was in Yerushalayim, all the guests, everybody you know, you don't know, people you want to be near you, people you don't want to near you. Call Yisrael. Call Yisrael. You shave in the sukkah. I remember I was with an American friend, and he's like, I can't sleep without my fan. So look at him, you can't sleep without your fan. So they took a big extension cord, and they hit this guy, the one guy in the sukkah, there were like 10 people, one guy by his head, and he had his little fan, blowing on him. And he had to sleep in the sukkah.
Sure, you couldn't sleep.
Okay. Says the Chidah. We have to say it with the Chidah, right? Chidah says in the Simchas Haregel. Chidah says like this. Al Pi Drush, what does it mean? Number 8. What does it mean that somebody, his head and his body are in the sukkah, but his table is out of the sukkah? We know the sukkah represents the fact that life is temporary, the fleeting state of this world, that this world is havel havalim, it's all empty, it all, eventually everything withers away. All gashmias eventually withers away. You could get the nicest car in the world, after 3 months, you already have a dent in the bumper. And after 6 months, you already have, and then eventually, now I remember my apartment when I moved in, it had a beautiful shellacked floor, right? And then a few months later, somebody poured some water, and it turned black. And then, no gashmias lasts. All gashmias fades away, withers away, right? That's the purpose of the sukkah, to realize life is temporary. So a person might know that this world is temporary. And he says, money, temporary. Everything is temporary. But my table, at least when I eat, I want to eat as a dart sazayin, the right way. I want to sit down to my meal. I know this world is temporary and I don't value gashmias, but at least I want my food to be substantial. So I want to sit down. When I eat my meals, that should be a davar kavua. That should be established. I sit down, different courses, entrees, desserts. At least, look, I know this world doesn't last. So I might as well make food an important thing in this world.
Like the Frenchman.
Yeah? So if somebody, his head, he's in the sukkah. In other words, his head is in the sukkah. His mind knows that this world is temporary. But his tables in the house, he values food, that's puzzle. Because eventually he's going to get drawn after his food. He's going to get drawn after his food. Person should realize that everything in this world, you take what you get. Whatever comes to you, that's what you take. You don't have to run after it. It's temporary. If you have a good meal, enjoy it. If you don't have a lot to eat that day, enjoy it also. Es gesund to hate. But don't make achila the focus of your life. And let's end off with one thing. Al Pi Mesorah, there are 3 psukim that say ki. Ki. 1. Ki ba'sukkah yisashafti es b'nei Yisrael. There are many psukim that say 3, but the Mesorah finds a link for 3 psukim. Ki ner mitzvah v'Torah are, and ki baruchoy v'nolen. We'll sleep in the street. So, it's said over in the name of the students of Rav Mordechai Bennett, the Av Bezin of Nicholsburg.
Not Bennett from the Knesset?
Probably no relation. That there are 3 mitzvahs that share a common halacha. That they can't be higher than 20 amos, and they can't be lower than 10 tvachim. Sukkah that's higher than 20 amos is possible. You can't see the schach. If it's lower than 10 tvachim, it's possible. Ner Chanukah cannot be higher than 20 amos, can't be lower than 10 tvachim. And the kaira of a mavoi, when you're making an eruv, if you put the kaira higher than 20 amos or below 10 tvachim, it's possible. 3 halachas can't be higher than 20, can't be lower than 10. Ki is kaf yud. Kaf, 20 amos, yud, 10 tvachim. There are 3 things that have ki. Ki ba'sukkah yisashafti, ki ner mitzvah ner Chanukah, and ki baruchoy v'nolin, the mavoi of the rechav, the mavoi of the street. These are the 3 keys, and that will be the key for a great day. Have a good day.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.